I was born back in 1980, and ever since I start realizing our reality, I started getting confused about it, and I kept that confusion with me up until today. I always believed in education as a method of resisting ignorance, not as a method of resisting like savage political regimes. So I had that, and I was looking for answers. This is why I went to university to study sociology, so I can have some answers, but I couldn't find any answers in academia. The profound moment in my life was to get a chance to go volunteer on an island called Sri Lanka for 1 year. And that island is ripped apart with civil war. And even though with all the atrocities that are happening, the poverty, the exploitation and mistreatment of people, that place felt comfortable to me. So that comfort does not come from Sri Lanka. It comes from all the things that we as survivors of Israeli oppression normalize in order to survive day in, day out. In Sri Lanka and later on in the United States, I was confronted by something different from ignorance, which is the illusion of knowledge, where people talk about Palestine as if they know. And I met people who know more about Palestine than me, or they believe. So they would tell me that my life is wrong, you know? And that's precisely why I came back home to work on education on Palestine, to help people understand the reality, but also for me to understand the reality better in order to explain it. I see myself confronting the illusion of knowledge much more than confronting ignorance. I have to convince myself that ignorance is not an opportunity for complaining, but an opportunity for education. Oppression is not an opportunity for submission, but is an opportunity for rejection. I found many answers in our indigenous wisdom because we have a very rich, wealthy culture that is rooted in 10,000 years of human evolution. So one of the things I keep reminding myself of is that in our indigenous culture, we say something like, if you see something wrong, you're ought to reject it with your fist. And then if you can't, then with your word. And if you can't, then with your heart. And that's the least you can do. So now when we are talking about rejection of oppression, rejection comes in different forms. The highest form of rejecting oppression is self-sacrifice, and the lowest form is prayers. So I got that place in between where I had to work on explaining reality by being descriptive of it, rather than trying to convince or be defensive. Because we as Palestinians are always invited to places where we have to prove ourselves and be defensive. And that comes from a little bit of our politeness, you know. So I go into like describing the reality, and if people want to see it the way it is, they can. If people want to continue to be blind to it, they can go to an optician, but I'm not an optician. Helping people understand the reality turned out to be useful for two things. Help people realize how fooled and brainwashed about Palestine they have been all their lives. And also having people who understand the reality of what we are forced to survive might feed into the existing Palestine solidarity movement that we see around the world. So once again, it's an expression of rejection of brutality and savagery that is imposed upon us, and we are forced to survive it.